Friends, in just a few moments, we are going to begin the service for Mr. Charles Edward Slattery. I can ask you to take a moment just to quiet ourselves and maybe some of our cellular devices. Officiating today's service is Rabbi Cantor Nancy Landsman.
I'm truly honored to be officiating the service this afternoon for Chuck in place of your rabbi, Reb Deb Nesselson Cohn. She's here remotely, and we know there are so many that wished they could be here today physically. They are joining us spiritually, lending you so much support and love during this very, very difficult time. Our hearts go out to this beautiful family, to Ellen, to Brian and Talia, Adira and Fen, to Joan, and Mike and Lynn, Susan and Gary, Pat and Sharice, Eileen and Mike, and the whole family. We know that your hearts are torn, and we're sending you all so much support and love. In that spirit, we begin the service with the traditional act of Kriya, the tearing of the mourner's ribbon. So I invite those of you wearing the ribbon to please stand where you are. It's only children who wear the ribbon on the left side. Other mourners wear the ribbon on the right. And the reason for that is there is no relationship as unique and special as that between a parent and a child. We know everyone's hearts are torn as we say goodbye to Chuck. There are traditional words in Hebrew that are said before making this tear. And I'd like to invite those of you wearing the ribbon to please repeat these ancient words after me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam dayan ha'emet. These words mean, praised are you, eternal our God, ruler of the universe, judge of truth. For we know it was God's eternal judgment that Chuck be taken to his final resting place. I invite you now from the bottom of your ribbon up towards the circular button to tear the ribbon as far as you would like. And know that you can wear this ribbon just today, the first week of mourning, or the period of Shloshim, 30 days. You also have a choice to wear it on the outside or the inside. If you wear it on the outside, as you go out during this pandemic, and people see that you're wearing a torn ribbon, hopefully they will understand that it means that you are in a period of mourning, and they will have compassion on you. I invite you now to please be seated. At times such as this, we look for comfort, and we often find that when we turn to the book of Psalms, Psalm 121. Ezri. I will lift up mine eyes unto the mountains. From whence shall my help come? My help cometh from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel doth neither slumber nor sleep. Chuck was blessed with such a beautiful, loving family. And I felt that this next poem was so appropriate. Unfortunately, the author is unknown. It's entitled The Greatest Gift. One of the greatest gifts that life can give to anyone is the very special love that families share. As years go by, it's good to know that there will always be certain people in our lives who care. For there are countless things that only families have in common, and memories that no one else can make. And these precious ties that bind a family together are bonds that time and distance cannot break. How fortunate we are when we have relatives to love us. It makes the world a happy place to be. Few gifts in life will last as long or touch the heart as deeply as the very special gift of family. In learning about Chuck, I got the sense that in numerous ways, Chuck impacted so many people. The word success can be defined in a variety of ways, and I think certainly all of you who've known Chuck will know that he was the definition of success, especially as beautifully expressed in this poem written by Ralph Waldo Emerson. What is success? To laugh often and much. To win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children. To earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends. To appreciate beauty. To find the best in others. To leave the world a bit better, whether by a loved child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. Chuck Slattery succeeded big time. As we turn back now to the book of Psalms, there's a psalm that I think speaks to all of us, regardless of our faith or our tradition. It's a psalm that you find in your service folders. And for those of you joining us remotely, if you know the words to the 23rd Psalm, I'd like you, as well as those who are here in the chapel, to join with me as together we recite the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Rabbi Karen Kadar wrote in God Whispers, "The true worth of a life is the story it has left behind. Tell it well. Search for meaning and understanding. Search for truth. Did he teach you about love? Did he personify genius or sensitivity? Did his life warn you of the danger of bitterness and anger? As we gather and behold the eyes of those who mourn, we realize that the only difference between people in this world is not their wealth, fame, or success. The only difference is those who had love in their life and those who did not. Chuck Slattery had so much love in his life. This room would be overflowing if we were not in a pandemic, and you all know that, and you're shaking your heads. I want to believe that the spirit of all those who wish they could be here physically, their spirits are here, and they're embracing you and comforting you. We have several speakers today. I'd like to share some memories about Chuck. It is my honor to first call upon his sister Eileen to offer some words.
This is the last place that any of us thought we would be. It's the saddest thing that I've ever been part of. I'm sure I'm not the only one who just wanted to stay in bed today and pretend that this was all a bad dream. But it's not, it's real, it's happening, and we're here, joined by cyberspace, and a few of us in person, and we'll get through this together. So for now, I want to do my best to hold back the tears, and I want to give my brother the biggest and the best tribute that a few minutes will allow. I want you to know Chuck through my eyes, and I feel certain that you will recognize parts of this guy I describe as the same Chuck that you also love and admire beyond measure. And in that, I hope we can all find a measure of comfort. Everyone leaned on Chuck. Even if you didn't need somebody to lean on, you leaned on him. He just had that quality. He drew people in. He made everyone feel safe and heard. He made everyone laugh, and he encouraged us. For me, he was always like that. I was his only little sister, and he was the best big brother. I loved and admired him from a young age. If Chuck did something, I wanted to do it. I wanted him to teach me, and he did. We kind of saw the world in the same way, and there was always an adventure to be had and an experience to be lived. When we were young, Saturday mornings were a big deal. Chuck would have, usually me and Pat, help him gather whatever mattresses and pillows we could find around the house and bring them down to the basement. We'd pile them in various ways based on what he had decided we would be doing that day. And I remember one time we had all the mattresses in a square in the middle, and we put folding chairs in each corner and laid the hockey sticks to make our own boxing ring. We even had boxing gloves. Just like a month ago, he texted me, and he's like, "Did we have boxing gloves? Was that a thing?" I'm like, "Yeah, we did. We totally did." Another time we put on roller skates and we skated around the central ring playing roller derby. And that's when I first got my nickname Bean. And even though over the years everybody called me Bean, B-E-A-N, at the beginning Chuck made it clear that it was Bean, B-E-E-N, because I'm Eileen, E-I-L-E-E-N. Sometimes while we were in the basement, we would play Atari. And Adira, I wanted to tell this story for you because once we had this game called Circus, and Chuck figured out that if you didn't catch the stick figure clown on the seesaw like you were supposed to, they would crash to the ground and the little stick figure would wiggle around and die. And so he convinced us all to spend hours not catching the clowns, but to let them fall to their little stick figure writhing death. And that game became known as Suicide Clowns from that point forward. All of my memories with Chuck were fun, but sometimes his ideas did backfire. Like when he and his friend exploded our backyard pool, or when he, as a teenager, led me and a couple others on a little motorized rowboat into a full-blown thunder and lightning storm with massive waves. Probably my most vivid memory was lunchtime at home on school days when Pat and Chuck would argue or fake argue and wrestle each other, and Chuck would pin Pat against the wall with the butter knife. And I'd be calling my mom up at work almost every day saying, "Mom, Chuck's trying to kill Pat, Chuck's trying to kill Pat." And my mom would just say calmly, "Put Chuck on the phone." To be clear, Pat was never really in danger. As we got older, sometimes Chuck would let me come up to his room to listen to his albums, maybe Styx, Cornerstone, or Sgt. Pepper's, or Queen. I always felt so special and so lucky to hang with him. Chuck had an innate ability to make everyday, ordinary things fun. He could fit a Pringle through his teeth while his mouth was clenched. He once showed me how to take an entire slice of bread and squish it into a little cube. But you didn't just smash it. Like with Chuck, there was always a system for everything. And it wasn't compulsiveness. It was more like him letting you into a secret club, a cool club that you wanted to be in. Like when you make a cheese and olive sandwich, you lightly toast the bread, then you take 4 olives only and cut each into 4 slices to form a 4x4 grid on the cheese while the toast is being prepared. You then transfer it, apply mustard if you like, and then gently squish the bread a bit. Cut it right down the middle between rows 2 and 3, and that's how you do it. And once you knew how to do it, you did it that way forever, happily and proud. Don't even get us started on Johnny's. And he knew everything. Like, honestly, I have no idea how he knew and remembered so much. If there was ever a trivia game, you wanted Chuck on your team for sure. Chuck had a way of finding joy in the little things, like literally little things. He got us a Lego quarterback to stand up during the games. And he had a little one for the Bears too. And if the quarterback got sacked, we had to knock him over. When Brian was little, and he was the ring bearer in our wedding, and he was scared to walk down the aisle, Chuck got him a little tuxedo Mickey Mouse to walk down with him. And our dad, he had a silver bullet that he always carried in his pocket. He would offer it to us to bite on when we were in pain, like maybe removing a sliver or cleaning a wound. And when he passed away, I kept it. And when I heard of Chuck's metastasis and the new treatment schedule, I brought it out and I gave it to him. Less than a year later, when my husband had his own run-in with cancer, Chuck brought it back to me. I'm pretty sure Chuck had something he always carried in his pocket, but I don't remember what it was. But whatever it was, one of you kids should keep it for sure. Chuck adored Ellen. Every day of every year of all of their time together, he adored her. He never stopped loving her. His kids were everything to him. His family always came first. His care and concern for our mom and dad was consistent and honorable. Ben and Adeline, he loved you deeply. There's so much more that I could say, but I will close with this. Years ago, Ellen and I went to Lake Placid with Chuck as he competed in a full Ironman triathlon. We got up so early, and the race took all day long. And we walked with him, and we cheered him on. And I remember when it got dark, he was still doing the run. And so I found him along the way, and I ran a little ways with him. And I positioned myself at the very last water stop so I could make sure to give him that cup of water to get him through to the end. And then we went over by the finish line, and I still remember the music was blaring and the people were cheering, and we were in the stands, and we saw Chuck come through, and he finished. He crossed that finish line exhausted, but strong. He had given everything he had, and he ran his race well. And that's how I see him now. And I know that so many of you were there at that last water stop, giving him just a cup of water to help him along. And he finished exhausted but strong. And I can just see him. I picture him right there that day. And I can see him now just coming up to me, leaning in for that little hug like he did and kissing me on the cheek. And saying, "See ya, Beaner. I love you, Chuck. We all love you. Rest in peace."
And now it's my honor to call upon Chuck's children, Brian and Talia, Adira and Fen.
It's very hard to talk about this. And what I want to share is a short passage, lightly adapted from a book, and a memory from years ago, and a memory from days ago. And I'm just sharing these in the hope that this might help you just think about and process our unwordable loss. So first, it's a passage adapted from Douglas Hofstadter's book, I'm a Strange Loop. It's about perception and identity and consciousness, and it's also about the sudden and unexpected death of his wife, Carol. In the wake of a human being's death, what survives is a set of afterglows, some brighter and some dimmer, in the collective brains of all those who were dearest to them. And when those people in turn pass on, the afterglow becomes extremely faint. And when that outer layer in turn passes into oblivion. Then the afterglow is feebler still, and after a while, there's nothing left. Because bodily death is so clear, so sharp, so dramatic, death strikes us as instantaneous and absolute, as sharp as a guillotine blade. Our instinct is to believe that the light has all at once gone out altogether. I suggest that this is not the case for human souls, because the essence of a human being is distributed over many a brain. It takes a couple of generations for a soul to subside, for the flickering to cease, for all the embers to burn out. It seems to me, therefore, that the purpose of holding a memorial service is to reunite the people most intimate with the deceased, and to collectively rekindle in them all the special living flame that represents the essence of that beloved person, feeling the shared presence of that person in the brains that remain. Though the primary brain has been eclipsed, there is in those who remain and who are gathered to remember and reactivate the spirit of the departed, a collective aurora that still glows. This is what human love means. The word love cannot thus be separated from the word I. The more deeply rooted the symbol for someone inside you, the greater the love, the brighter the light that remains behind. Okay. Second, the memory from years ago. I don't know why this was coming back to me so strongly. It would just pop into my head without my control over and over. It was early in the morning, and we were in the car because there was a race, and we had all woken up so early. And all three of us are in the car to see Dad, and everything is blue, in a cloud or in a mist. I can't see anything. But Mom is clapping and pointing out the window. There's Dad. And I'm tired and I can't see anything outside. It's all a blue cloud. And maybe Dad is going by, but I can't see him. And I wish I could see him. Third, the memory from a couple days ago. Talia and I are sitting on the couch at the condo talking to Mom. And she says, I know what race that was. She's talking about the older memory I just said. She had heard it because I tried to say it on the video call with the rabbi earlier that day, but I was mostly just crying. And Mom says, this was a race that Dad signed up for after he did the Ironman, so it was 96, 97, 99 maybe. And he had signed up for it thinking, I'll be in the best shape of my life, this will be easy. But it was miserable weather. Rained the whole day. He had an awful race. Mom couldn't see him either in the rain and fog. Most likely if she was cheering at some point, it was just to get us two to perk up or something. And on the ride home, Dad was grumpy the whole way, saying to Mom, oh, I'm never doing a triathlon again, no way, etc. But of course, in no time at all, there he is, signing up for another race. Of course. I don't really know what all of this means. Maybe that sometimes things are tough, shit happens, but that doesn't mean the end of something you love. Hofstadter's book about the flame and the afterglow says that people don't end like we think either, not the people we love. And I love you, Dad, so much. Who you are is a bonfire. You still feel so close and so warm. And maybe I was thinking about that time in the car in the fog, because I couldn't see you then, and I can't see you now. It's just that. But then I talk about that memory, and Mom tells me for you it was about the race, and having a hard time. But you love it so much in the end you can't stay away. And your feelings and your thoughts are in my head, and that's who you are now. You're still there, in the afterglow. And you're still here that way. I know that, in a different way, really the same way as before. I love you, Dad. You're gone. You're still here. I love you.
I'm gonna be a little shorter. Dad always pushed me to do new things because he believed in me, often more than I believed in myself. I wouldn't be the person I am today without him. He was a strong man. He was a wonderful father. He was so many things. And I'm so proud that I'm so proud that he called me his daughter. Cool. Next one.
For those of you who are virtual who don't know me, I'm Brian's wife, Talia, Chuck's daughter-in-law. I want to share with you all something that happened Saturday morning that keeps looping in my mind. It may not seem noteworthy from the outside, but it is a small action that is a significant representation of who Chuck is. Ellen, Brian, and I had picked up Chuck from his visit to the hospital after Chuck's uncomfortable Friday night. The first few minutes into the car ride home were the important updates on how he was feeling, what we're supposed to do for the rest of the day, Chuck feeling exhausted. Brian and Ellen and I began to each silently fret about him, but trying to give him some space. In that silence, you could hear The Drive, the radio station, playing on the lowest volume. Suddenly the song, Blinded by the Light, could be faintly heard over the speakers. Yeah, that song's gonna be stuck in your head now, you're welcome. Chuck, without a word, sitting in the passenger seat, reached out to turn the volume knob up and leaned back to enjoy it. I felt the mood in the car shift and suddenly softened in that single action. Even though through the worst of it, he still had the urge to quietly rock out to what is indisputably a great track, so he could bring lightness into a difficult moment. He was still very much himself under the situation that was immediately ahead of us. That action is just the tip of the iceberg of Chuck. I first met Chuck when I was 17 years old, just a few weeks after I met and fell in love with Brian. It was at his graduation party. The Chuck I've grown to know over the last 13 years was brilliantly intelligent, methodical, logical, inquisitive, discerning, creative, and dependable. He liked a good challenge and loved learning new things. He was also warm and kind and supportive and out of this world funny. He always could produce a joke in a conversation at lightning speed as if he had it ready all along. Chuck was always there for you through good and the bad. He had sensitivity to people that was so utterly unique to only him. The best way I can describe it is he allowed you to be whoever you truly are in his presence. He knew exactly what to say in any given situation, not just what to say, but how and when to say it, because he always gave his words thoughtful consideration. And as Ellen has said to me, he never tooted his own horn about any of his countless strengths because he didn't feel it was necessary or even thought about it that way. It has always been clear to everyone around him that his way of being was all effortless and natural to him. To him, this is just what you do, is be a good person, and you just keep doing it. What I personally admire most about Chuck is how he moved through the world with curiosity, how open he was to observe every little detail about it. He didn't just do this through keeping informed with current events or specific interests or hobbies he had. He also did this simply in his everyday life. He did this habit everywhere he went, but I first noticed it when we would take 45-minute car trips each way to visit his parents down in Elmwood Park. We would pass landmarks and signs or encounter some good people watching or situations that most people would consider innocuous and quickly look over them. He would latch onto something really specific about it and pose a question out loud, sometimes to be funny, sometimes as a genuine inquiry. It was amazing how he could give something seemingly small a sense of intrigue and delightful humor. All of us in the car couldn't help joining him in coming up with backstories and wacky reasonings or one-upping each other while riffing on puns. Sometimes these just became interesting, fun discussions of why things are, how they fit into the world, and what he thought about that. I learned so much about his past experiences and trains of thought in these kinds of moments. His habit of doing this was catching. It made you want to observe the world more closely when you were around him and figure out how you chose to perceive and connect with it too. I also can't talk about Chuck and not mention how cool and fun he was. He had impeccable taste in music, as Eileen has already mentioned, the Queen, Styx, and one that we connected on is ABBA, being just some of his favorites. He taught his kids how to play Dungeons and Dragons and fed both Brian and Dee's unstoppable imaginations. He wrote a Pinky and the Brain episode with his family, which has yet to be animated. He was a triathlete, most notably having completed the Ironman, working with Dare to Try for countless years as an original founder, board member, as well as a volunteer. He was a scout leader and an avid camper. Surprisingly, but also not surprisingly, he had recently taken up teaching himself how to play the concertina. He loved taking trips to big cities abroad, but also re-exploring his home city of Chicago. Every chance he and Ellen got, they were trying new things and having adventures together. I'm actually going to talk off the cuff for a second. I actually felt like sometimes Brian and I were the old couple and they were like the teenagers. Like, I honestly,
Us too.
yeah, like that's how much they would do cool stuff together. He has never led a boring life. He always had something going on and created fun experiences for himself and his family. Which brings me to what I would have liked to have said to Chuck if I could have done so before this past Sunday, because I feel there's so much I never actually told him. Chuck, wherever you are, I want to thank you for being a passionately loving husband to Ellen. You are both perfect. I want to thank you for being a tremendously dedicated dad, because without your raising and love of your family, I wouldn't have the love of my life, Brian. I see so much of you in Brian, inside and obviously outside too. He is the greatest gift. I promise to always protect and cherish him on your behalf. Thank you for fully welcoming me into your family from day one. You always made me feel like your second daughter. The only way I can ever come close to repaying you now is by letting you know that while your work on this earth is complete, I promise you that I will use the spirit of your memory to nourish and nurture the people you held closest to your heart. I will help make sure all of our collective lives are worth enjoying, especially together. I will do my best to encourage a higher standard of compassion in the larger community that surrounds us, just as you have done. We will do our best to find a new normal, even though it will never truly be normal without you. That's what you said to us when Dawn passed, to find a new normal. You found your way to create one. You showed us by example that we can be strong in moving forward if we try. We will go on together from here, but always with you looming incredibly large in our hearts. You will always have us, and we will always have you. I love and miss you forever, Chuck.
Okay. Hi, I'm Fen. I am married to Chuck's wonderful daughter, Adira. Yeah. I wanted to talk a little about not specific memories of Chuck or things like that, but tell you some things that he taught me. One of the biggest ones is what I saw him do all the time, which is to just do the right thing in whatever situation he's in and just keep doing it. He almost did this in a way that was like, what? Like, it's hard? You just do the right thing and you just do it. He was a big mentor to me in a lot of ways, including helping others and in the disability space. And he was so, it seemed, effortlessly good at this next thing he taught me, which is to just listen to people about what they need and ask questions if you don't understand, and then just do it. He was so good at understanding that other people are the experts about themselves and to just support them. Some other things he taught me. So I, like Chuck, was not raised Jewish and am now a part of a Jewish family and consider myself Jewish. And although I have all these folks who taught me a lot about that, I think Chuck, more than anyone else, taught me how to be Jewish. In that, I mean, maybe he didn't know all the words to a prayer like Adira does or something, but he showed me with his actions and told me with his words what the important parts were and why we do them and why they matter. He also taught me, again, both with his words, but especially just by seeing him and Ellen, he taught me how to love someone with your whole entire heart, and then even more on top of that. And a lot of people have asked me, of course, in the last days, how is Adira? Is Adira okay? And he taught me how to take care of his daughter when he wouldn't be here. And by watching him take care of Ellen and them take care of each other, and he taught me how to just love her and support her and to just be her biggest fan in the whole wide world. I'm going to openly plagiarize the last part of this from a speech Chuck gave. I think he wouldn't mind. So at mine and Adira's wedding, he gave a speech for us, a toast and his tux and all that. And I'm paraphrasing, but he was talking about Adira and I, but I think it applies to us and us in this room and us out there. He said that he would see us stand up for each other and defend each other. And he would see us, I think he said, almost aggressively stand up for one another. And that's how he knew we would be okay. Because we have each other and we stick up for one another. As Chuck would say at the end of his posts and just all the time, just be kind. Thank you.
Linda Ellis wrote, I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on his tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came his date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that he spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved him know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect, and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? I never had the honor to know Chuck, but I believe with my whole heart that if he were here to listen to these beautiful words that were shared from the heart, he would have been so proud. He was a wonderful son to you, Joan, and to your beloved husband, Don, of blessed memory. He was truly a great brother to Mike and Sue and Pat and Eileen. For over 35 years, he drank from the cup of life with his beloved Ellen. And how blessed they were with their children and their chosen ones. Adira with Fen and Brian and Talia brought so much joy to his life. He was a wonderful son-in-law to Ben and Adeline. Chuck made his family fun. He made life fun for everyone. There were many adjectives that you've heard in the words that were expressed and in the words that the family used when we met so I could learn about Chuck. And in no particular order, I think some of these adjectives are worth repeating. That Chuck was so optimistic and realistic, devoted and funny and fun and supportive, inclusive, kind and loving. He made things easy for his children, always coming from a place of kindness. He was a hard worker. Used to love driving to work with his dad, working in printing, color separation, and and moving on to account management and purchaser for pharmaceutical companies. I read so many of the comments that were shared online. Howischuk.com. What a brilliant, thoughtful, creative way. A place that included humor because he wanted to make sure that there would be some levity, some joy, a place that you can also laugh during this difficult time and the years of treatments. So many of his coworkers shared about the kind of mentor he was, terrific boss, coworker. He was patient and kind. And as was said, he was someone that you can lean on, depend on. Not everyone has that kind of person in their life, but you have had him. Not long enough. You want more. Of course you do. He was a fighter. He was looking forward to his retirement, making terrific fun plans for him, for you to enjoy together. He was always action focused. What are we going to do next? From his younger years of being an Eagle Scout and then becoming a Scout leader, he was someone that enjoyed Little League football and enjoyed swimming and tennis and running. And you remember the bike goggles that he wanted and the canoe that he bought and the fact that he played the drums and he played lots of games, and he was always there to be there with you, to play with you, to bring joy to your life. What a wonderful role model with his incredible values, his big heart filled with so much love. How can a person have this much love in his heart and have enough to give to everyone that he knew? He was always thinking about you and how to make your day better. I quote, "Stay safe and be kind." He cared about making the world a better place with his Dare to Try organization, helping those who are disabled. He lived his life to the fullest. He was truly a mensch, a decent human being. You do not have to be Jewish to be a mensch. A mensch is a decent human being. To quote some of the kind comments that were written on howischuk.com, he was a kind-hearted soul. His family meant everything to him. He was blessed with all the love you gave him, and you were equally blessed with all the love you gave, that he gave you. Cherish all those wonderful times you shared and all the laughter through the years. May they be a source of comfort to you as you continue to lean on each other now. Zecher Tzadik Livracha, the memory of Chuck Slattery will forever be a blessing, and let us all say, Amen. If you are able to rise for the concluding prayers, which you find in your service folder, I invite you to please rise for El Malei Rachamim and the Mourner's Kaddish. El Malei Rachamim Shochen Amromi Kimse menucha tachat kanfei hashchina. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest beneath the sheltering wings of thy presence among the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament, unto the soul of Charles Edward Slattery, son of Joan and Don, who has gone unto eternity. Lord of mercy, bring him under the cover of thy wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life, be God's possession, and may his repose be peace. And let us all say, Amen. On the back cover, you find the words to the Mourner's Kaddish, which we will also be reciting at the grave. It is said that the angels brought this prayer down from heaven. I invite you all to join with me as together we exalt God's name with these traditional words of Kaddish Yatom. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Bialma divra chirute viamlich malchute. Bechayechon uviyomechon uvechaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kari v'imeru. Amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevarach leolam ulomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach. V'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei dikudasha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran ba'alma v'imeru. Amen. Yehi shalama rabbah min shamaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen. May the author of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all the bereaved among us. And let us all say, Amen. Please be seated.
This concludes our service here at the chapel. Interment will take place immediately at Memorial Park. For those of you joining in the procession, we'll be forming a line outside. To mention a few of the safety measures we're going to be taking. Please obtain an orange safety sticker as well as a magnetic flag to be placed on the top portion of your vehicle. When going in procession, please make sure that your headlights and hazards are on at all time and try to avoid any gaps, especially as we go through intersections. And please use your horn liberally as we go through intersections as well. The family has requested that memorial contributions, of course, are made out there to try. That information, as well as any other information regarding Dare to Try, is on ChicagoJewishFunerals.com under Chuck's name. At this time, we're going to rise once again as we escort the casket and the rabbi, as well as the family, from the chapel.